The point, and we continue with our discussion, university experiential learning, and Professor Lawrence Muganga was taking us through. The authentic university, one asks what it's all about. Will that alone transform the education? And will it help us in these experiential learning processes? That's number 2. Number 3, is this far nearby the Ugandan curriculum or practical education that we have? Because there are those who are our fellow Ugandans, the young generation, and we have a good number of them, who are feeling the story of telling him we go and pursue Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of What, and they say, no, let me go to the garage, send my child to the garage, send my wife to this, and then finally then begin to make life easier. And others they'll say, no, don't need that, they go to business. But finally, one remains with a mind which is debating to know, has my child taken a right direction or is now referred as a school dropout? Yet, to me, the best of my knowledge, and to your knowledge as you share with us, experiential learning calls for hands-on, and it is a solution of unemployment. Take us through, sir.
So let me give you a little bit of a breakdown of when we talk about experiential learning and how it fits within the bigger picture of our country called Uganda. So experiential learning, note this, is a branch of something concept called authentic learning. All right? And that's where this book obtains the drive, where it comes from, Authentic University. What is authentic learning? Authentic learning, and to the viewers that are kindly following us, is learning that encourages a student to create a product, a tangible product that they can share with their world. I will repeat. Authentic learning is learning that encourages a student to create a tangible product that is shareable with their community or the world. Every learning that has to happen with every student, they should result into something they have created and they can share with you. They then come back to their mother, their dad, that Dad, Mom, there was a problem, but here is what I created to solve this problem. That is learning that is meaningful. Now, experiential learning, as it comes from authentic learning, it is learning by doing. Learning that, again, results into something. As you do something, I was on this show, I think, some time back. As you do something, it goes in the brain and it goes in the heart, and then you master it. You don't only put it in the brain. Once you do it, you get experience. The brain senses you have done something. The heart conceptualizes and keeps something that, oh, this is something I have learned. So you need the brain, you need the hands, you need the heart. 3, the B, the H, the H, BHH, brain, heart, hands. Experiential learning. Now, again, there is another branch called personalized learning. Again, that comes, which is a sister to experiential learning. Now, that means Dr. Tindebwa was born and he's different. Miss Shamim or Mrs. Shamim Kematov is a different child. Lawrence Muganga is a different child. The viewer there is a different person. Their children are different people. All right? So the learning should also understand that we are educating different people who think differently. Perhaps they have different passions, they have different interests, and their futures, if I may use that word, may also look different. The same way you go to hospital and they don't just inject you or give you just medicine because you said, I feel like. They first have to assess what the problem is. And education should also assess who this child is. Now there is another sister of experiential learning.
After that, I have a comment.
Yeah, you come in. Now I started with the mother and the father called authentic learning. Then I came to the son or daughter called experiential learning. And then there is another son or daughter called personalized learning. Now there is also another important child of authentic learning called competence-based learning. That is what the Ministry of Education today is implementing in lower secondary. What does it mean? Again, it is learning by doing, but this time learning that emphasizes mastery. You have to master what you're doing before you move forward. Okay? And then to show that you have mastered that particular concept, you have to be assessed for people to see the competencies. Remember this, competence-based education is all about mastery. How have you mastered the concept? And which do you show the competencies and skills that you have mastered this? Not the time you're going to spend doing something. You see how we are obsessed with the term. You send your child in a boarding school. I called it a big daycare where you keep your kids because you cannot afford to keep them at home. You're not there. So you send them there for a whole term. And then they finish another term and third term. Then they are promoted to another year. That is what we call learning. No, in a competence-based learning system, it is not about time. It's about how fast have you mastered the concept. And then once you are tested and you have the competencies and skills, then you move forward. You would see that maybe a child, because we talked about personalized learning, individuality, one child may understand these concepts. In just 2 months, they have moved to another level. And another one, it may take them 2 terms to move to another level because we are different. So that is an education that is supposed to move us out of the epidemic we are in, and that's what is packaged in this book. I remember the father, the mother I talked about, the children I talked about in this book.
Thank you. Well, to the viewers, this is a serious study because we tend to always send our children, send the sons and daughters of Uganda to school, including some are getting the opportunity to go and study abroad, but little is being realized. We appreciate you, Prof, and it is something to carry on. You've called it as a pandemic in the education.
It's an epidemic.
Yes, rather.
And just food for thought, dear parents, it's okay for lack of an option. You'll keep sending your children to boarding schools. It's fine. They have raised so many people, prominent Ugandans you have today. But I want you to remember, ask any scientist, neuroscientists, ask psychologists. They are going to tell you that brain development of a person predominantly happens from 0 to maybe 20 years.
Thank you.
All right?
Yes, please.
If you subject your child to a space where the whole day they are under pressure, the night they are under pressure, you are actually affecting your child's brain development.
But it is the set curriculum. Those who are from P3,
yeah,
you go for, your child starts, the schedule.
It's okay, it's a curriculum.
Yeah,
but Dr. Tindewa, someone said English people, those who say very good, who speak very good English, they say too much of anything is what?
It's always bad.
You try to eat because our bodies need food, and sometimes you're hungry. Eat 5 kgs or 10 of food and tell me if you'll survive. My
request to you, Prof, and the expert of education we have in this country, one of them, is that since I just leave this for you as a food for thought, since the education, under the Ministry of Education, there is this which is led board which is led by Honorable Amanya Mushega.
Yeah, the Education Review Commission.
Education Review Commission.
This is a gift for the commission.
I pray that you go and make a presentation. And maybe
let them invite me.
We want that miracle.
If they invite me, I am ready to really compare notes with our dear members of the Education Review Commission. You're doing a great job. We would love to share our experience. But I still think, even if I'm not there, and they interested themselves in the book, and I'm willing to even the entire commission, the members, to give them copies for free.
And the Minister of Education.
And the Minister of Education,
yes.
Copies for free. Because I want them to remedy what is not right.
Thank you so much.
System.
Please, it's a pleasure. We can shift from being every other time called developing country, and as we always talk about that, these are the issues that affects us. We have the same brain that can come up with the solutions, but the adoption and adaptation is still remaining a challenge. I'm coming back to you, Madam Shamim, and in this way, looking at employability, which is your area of specialty, and the employment diversity, which is supposed to be advocating for equal access to employment opportunities, it remains a challenge. Here, as at least if you try to be associate with our citizens, as US citizen, you hear complaints that the son of so and so is the one who can easily get a job. And also for policy, from the policy perspective that I belong to, I was able to come across the National Development Plan, the number of jobs that are still not having people who qualify for them in this country, and there are over 200,000 in different sectors. How can we bridge the two gaps? There are people complaining, the citizens, these are the demands. You cannot get a job. You must be a son of so and so. 1. 2, there are also accessible jobs that are traced and listed in our National Development Plan. But the people to do those jobs and the trainings where they can be attained from are not in this country. Would you give us your input into that so that we have a direction?
Interesting. So as a people, we are looking for the wrong things. If we keep saying there are no jobs, that's what we're trying to run away from. We are actually actively running away from that. We want people to develop careers and not jobs. There's a difference between a career and a job. A job, you just want to get in and earn that money. So whether you like it, whether you're good at it, whether you're qualified for it, whether you want to actually build on the strength that you need in that, it's different. For a career, you are operating in your zone of genius. That's why we're talking about strength development approaches, so that you tap into the things that you're good at and build a career from there. Now, when we say that there are jobs, for example, that do not have, that we fail to hire from, this is a responsibility on us as a people, as Ugandans, but also as a government, right? Because policy formation has a very important attribute to boosting what we want to see for a country. Now, you're talking about the National Development Plan. So part of what it's actually realizing is to have a human capital that is productive to be able to enhance our socioeconomic development. Now, if we have a people that cannot produce the results we're looking for, because I think Prof did mention that work is not just about working from 9 to 5.
No.
It's about being productive. I can be productive in 2 hours. So we need to go back to that and say, okay, from a policy formation perspective, can we focus on what exactly is work? What are kind of things that stand in the way? I know that this country has talked a lot about the minimum wage, for example. Inflation is on the rise. Good prices of goods and services are on the rise, but employers are not increasing. So what is blocking us from realizing some of these things that we require? Now that's a food for thought for us as policymakers, as people that were voted into government to make policy for us. Let's think about how that impacts on work in general and productivity in general. So coming back to the aspect of career, we started by saying it's a personal choice. Doctor, you're not going to choose my career for me. I have to design my own career. Every other person that comes on that journey is helping you realize that. So whether it's the networks that you're building, whether it's lifelong learning, for example, whether it's opportunities that you're tapping into, that is your personal responsibility. Now, you as an individual chooses to either have a job or build a career. That's the difference. If you want to build a career, you must be intentional about it. So you know, for example, if you want to be a chartered accountant, what is required of you. And that's what we're saying in experiential learning, that you take the responsibility to tap into structured work experience to be able to push yourself in a place where you are visible. So whether you're part of a membership of a professional group, that you will need those qualifications to be able to be a part of that community that you're trying to build. You're talking about roles that have not been hired into. I don't really think that we're lacking human capital, but I think that we're not intentional in how we're going about this. Because also employers are saying, we have the jobs, people are applying to them, but they're not the right people. And you know why? Because they are looking for jobs. They're not building careers. Employers are also saying the skills that we want for the future, critical thinking, problem solving, empathy, you're not going to find a course on empathy. We have to take personal responsibility to say, where is the world going? So we're talking about career revolution.
Who is to lead into this? Because I would not want to leave you the ball in the air.
Yes.
There's someone who should be held responsible.
Yes.
At least central to make a drive to achieve it. Okay. Who is responsible to drive us to this? Okay,
so this is very interesting.
And it's a guidance that maybe,
like I said, it's a personal choice. So universities do not take in kids, they take in adults, right? And I did mention that. So you as a university student, as an adult that walks into a higher institution of learning, you take personal responsibility for your own learning. Our responsibility as people who come on board to support you, to be able to realize the potential that you have as an individual, is to give you a boost, to direct you, to give you to help you with alignment. Our responsibility is not to get you there. It's your responsibility to get yourself to where you want to go. Our responsibility is to support you. However, the other challenge that we have as well, because I know recently a student came to me and said, I'm confused because my parents want me to study a particular course, but I don't like it. And that was a great, different predicament, because that is quite common amongst our households. So that's why we're saying that as parents, we also need to take responsibility to listen to our children. Because they're adult children, they can make choices of themselves. Can we say that if your interest is in interior designing, in carpentry, can we support you to go to a technical school, for example, so you can...
So parents shouldn't feel small that the child has not necessarily gone for, let's say, attaining the bachelor's degree or master's, because that has been one of a syndrome in pursuit of education, thinking that as you don't do this, you're not educated. And some even going almost an extra mile of attempting to say that if you are, that our education, those who qualify, if you are to be a president in this country, member of parliament, you should be a graduate, so that you're able to articulate policies. There is a contradiction in terms of this. Prof. Thank you. Let him give us some more.
The parents that are watching us tonight, and thank you very much, Shamim. You've just touched something very, very critical for this country. But us as a country, anyone who has a child and who hopes to have a child, we should stop this business of copy my neighbor, be like my uncle or auntie. That my child should be like the kids of my neighbors, or I used to have a brother who was so good, my child needs to be like my brother, or there is my very sister who is so doing well, my child needs to be like that. It's okay to have role models, but it is also very, very okay and important that schools and you, the parents, begins with parents, to understand who is my child, what are their strengths and natural abilities, passion. Then once they exhibit those things, support them. They can learn all these other things. I support students to stay general in their elementary, like primary, and then secondary. Let them stay general, learning all things. It's okay. But support also their passions, their natural abilities, their talents. Why? Because when somebody is in their zone, that very thing that God actually created them to do. They can become so creative, they can become so innovative, they can start startups, they can transform this country. We can enjoy economic development, job opportunities will be plenty, because people will not just look for jobs, will create jobs.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have a question for you, and it is specifically for you. And I pray if also the Vice Chancellor of our Mountain Over the Moon was here, because they will get the opportunity to have you are busy people. There is a pride Vice Chancellors you have, and which always is a score whenever a year is ending. Number one, the number of graduates that you are going to introduce on the graduation day. Number two, others who have not yet attended charter, the announcement that our university has attended charter, the number of the graduates you have. But the last one, which is embodied in my question, and which is the interest of the viewers, then the good people who make speech, and basically by that time it becomes the day to hit on the top of the nail how the students who have graduated should not carry envelopes and should be innovative. Yet, in the central processes, there was no way at any point, either in a 6-month period or 1 semester, which was able to identify these people and take them to where they are. And by the time they get the certificate and the degree, they go and do what you're telling them. What is causing this? How can we come out of that?
I am a Vice Chancellor of one of the fastest growing universities in this country. I am a Vice Chancellor of one of the sole experiential learning driven, the first of its kind that is driven by experiential learning in this country. The Vice Chancellor of one of the universities that are driven by technology. A university that understands that we live in the 21st century, a university that understands that this is the 4th industrial revolution, that what has to be taught has to resemble like the time we are in.
I agree.
Right? That educating a child is not about sitting them in a classroom from Monday to Friday, and then year 1, year 3, and then take them in one big field with tents and say, we are seeing you off.
Yes.
You have seen the best teachers, and we have given you a lot of content, and it is in your head, and actually you have first classes and A's. Please go and make us proud and change the world. Wow. That's not what we do as Victoria University.
Understand.
And that is an education, that kind of education of where you think you have pumped things in people's heads, and you think you sat them in a classroom Monday to Friday or even Saturday for 3 years or 4 years, and you're sending them in an economy that expects them to not only know things, but to also do something with what they know. So in an economy that expects a graduate to have 2, 3 years of experience, and they are coming with 0, that's not an education I want to be part of, and that's not a university I want to be part of.
So that's not the authentic university.
That is not the authentic university we are talking about. This is a university that a student comes in, leaves after 3 or 4 years with experience of 2 to 3 years, and has been subjected to a career employability program by Shamim and her team.
Do you carry them on from year 1 up to the 3rd year?
Correct. Then they have to understand that when you come to work, you don't have to go on social media no, there's time to work, WhatsApp, or and when a client comes, you first tell them, wait, I'm still looking. No. Soft skills, they have to learn there. So an employer doesn't have to really bother retraining these people, because that's money they have to spend. We want employers around this country to start booking students before they finish from Victoria University, because we have trained them to have the experience needed by the industry before they join them. And that's why we say our student will have to be I think Smart 24 here can testify. They have a student who comes to Victoria University and is always on TV educating the country.
Yeah.
That is the education we are talking about.
I understand.
Experiential what?
And is still
Learning.
a student, yet is
And
already
still a
doing
student.
work, experiential,
And
hands-on.
sometimes when he doesn't have the time, we have the most interactive learning management system that you will tune in, stay where you are at your work because traffic is too much, and don't miss your class.
Thank you. You've answered the question.
But can we also add that we are partnering with industry? So we are
Yes.
partnering with
Thank
industry. So we have partners already like Stanbic Bank, where we're actually saying, can we have a relationship where our students can come and learn within your
Stanbic,
city?
Field work.
MTN,
government.
yes.
Wow.
Yes, to educate these
The
students.
Vice Chancellor has rested all our worries that it's not the case only for graduation, number of graduates,
No.
and he has rested the worries that it's not only the charter, has also rested, put all the worries to rest, referring to the kind of the graduates that we must have, and that's what I wanted from him, and he has said it all. But we are going to be having the last session, which will be looking at what finally should we do that is doable, and that we are not importing importing from anywhere, but that we can do original now here, not referring to anywhere, but we also borrow some experience. See you in the next session.